So, um, you know what I think is this? This is a crazy thing, but I'll tell you what I think is good. It's it's good when you can feel the pain,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I've talked about this with a
Mhm.
lot of people before, right? The
Mhm.
pain tells you where the problem is.
Mhm. Mhm.
So as much as we don't like the pain, that's why it's there. It's there to, like your shoulder is sore because
Mhm.
there's a problem with it,
Mhm.
right? There's a problem with your body, or you got toothache with a
Mhm.
tooth.
Mhm.
There's a problem. There's a problem there,
Yeah.
right? And and that's when my my mom sent me a message this morning and she said, look,
Mhm.
your father's in a lot of pain, and I'm like, that's good.
Good.
That's right. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
good because if you can feel where the pain is, then
Mhm.
your body is still
You
working,
got it. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yes. Correct.
right? Right. Your body is working to tell you where the problem is and to try to solve the problem. So it's
Mhm.
when you don't know where the problem is, then that's
Mhm.
even worse, right? Or when you can't, when it's broken and you can't feel it, right? That's really bad, right?
Mhm.
That's really bad. So it's that difficult balance of like if you've got a headache, right? Do you take a headache pill or do you not take a headache pill? Because
Mhm.
you've got a headache, and so your head is telling you that something is wrong. Now,
Mhm.
if you
Mhm.
take your
Correct.
paracetamol headache pill, well, that's a painkiller. That's not a cure. That's not going to
Mhm.
solve your problem. That's going to mask your problem, right? Because you're not going to
Mhm.
feel it,
Mhm. I
right?
understand. Mhm.
So,
I
and
agree with you.
it's the problem with sports people, right? It's like they get injured
Mhm.
and then they take
Mhm.
something so they don't
Mhm.
feel that they're injured,
Mhm.
and then they play and they make
Yeah.
the
Yes.
problem
Mhm.
worse, right?
Mhm.
And so it obviously with doctors in medicine, it's like how much painkiller do you want to give somebody, right? You don't
Mhm.
want to you don't want to give them so much that they think that they're okay, because that's not good,
Mhm.
because the patient needs to know that the patient is sick, right? And the but you need to you don't want to feel, sometimes you don't want to feel everything, but you want to feel something, right?
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
So you want to mask the pain for at the beginning, but you want to reduce the amount of drugs, obviously,
Mhm.
that you're giving people, uh, and and obviously that's very difficult because everybody's body is different, right?
Mhm.
And because the individual nature of the body, and then you've got the generic drug, and
Mhm.
is it gonna work,
Mhm.
and how are you gonna know if there's not gonna be like a side effect, and
Mhm.
do the is there a drug that doesn't have a negative side effect? There's a lot of really difficult questions with that, and then also looking at the cause of the problems, right? I mean, how many problems are, again, we've talked about this a lot before, how many
Mhm.
problems are just habits, right? You know, you,
Yes.
you life habits, right? You have bad habits. We all have bad habits, right? So,
Mhm. Mhm.
how many problems are related to those bad habits that we have in life, and then we do them for a long time, and then later in life we have these bigger problems because we didn't take care of the problem sooner. It's a lot of people live very unhealthy lifestyles with this idea that medical science is going to save them, right? You know, it's people get fat and then they end up taking lots of drugs because they're fat. The same way people get thin and end up taking lots of drugs because they're too thin, right? So you know, it's a very difficult balance. But getting that balance right is difficult for a lot of people. I think that I personally I found a way to manage it in my own life. I manage it in my life by looking at everything as do nothing today that will have a negative effect on tomorrow. That's my basic philosophy, right? That's my do if I am doing something and that thing will have a negative effect on tomorrow, then it's not good. So that's my principle, and to know myself and to be able to manage levels of stress. So I now know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And there's a lot of people who don't get it, right? They will finish work and they'll go to the pub and they'll drink a few beers and maybe smoke a few cigarettes or whatever. Now, and I'm talking as a person who I used to finish my work in my office when I had an office in Kapitolska Street, right? Yeah. I used to finish my work at what time? I don't know, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, something like that, right? And I would walk back to where I lived in Siedlisko at the time, right? And I'd walk back through, you know, that there's the museum and the park and the hotel. I'd walk back home. And just before my flat, there was a little pub, yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's still there. It's like one of those bars that has been there for like 100 years, you know, and it's a little Slovak Krčma, you know. And I would on the way back home, I would stop there and I would get 2 bottles of beer or 3 bottles of beer to go, and I'd take them home, and I don't know what I would do at home. I'd work on whatever I had to work on at home, and I would drink a few beers. And that's okay if you do that once a week, right? But if you do that 3, 4 nights a week, and then you go out on Friday night, and then you go out on Saturday night, and then you sleep all day Sunday because you don't have any energy to do anything. After a year, you know, your body changes shape, right? It's just your body accommodates that kind of lifestyle, and so a lot of people go down that road, as I did, and then don't come back. You know, they go down that road and they stay on that road, and they're on that road from 30 to 50 plus, right? And I was on that road from 25 to 35, right?
Mm.
But then things happened in my life, and then
Mhm.
I clicked in my head that I I saw the future, and I thought I don't want to be there. I want to be somewhere else, and that to be somewhere else, I had to change my habits, and
Mhm.
that everything is everything is the management. Everything is the micromanagement of micro habits.
Mhm.
When you walk into your local shop, you have the choice to pick up a bag of sweets or a bag of apples, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That micro
Mhm.
choice
Mhm.
over a year is a big difference, right? A bottle of, I don't know, juice,
Mhm.
like fresh orange juice, or a bottle of beer. That difference every day over a year is a big difference over a year. Yeah. And realizing that everything is these little choices. Everything. Go out, stay in,
Mhm.
stand up, sit down, um, watch TV or go for a bike ride. Uh, you know, just walk down the beach. I walked down the beach for 1 hour, almost an hour, before
Mhm.
our conversation today. And
Mhm.
yeah, and you can when you if you understand if the difference between 1 hour sitting down and 1 hour standing up or not
Mhm.
moving and moving, and you break everything down into those little, and you realize a day has 24 hours, and so you want to spend 5, 6, 7 hours sleeping, and you want to spend time. I think it's good to spend time moving. Yeah, because here's the thing. I was talking with my mother when we went to Aberdeen.
Mhm.
I was talking with her
Mhm.
about the car, and
Mhm.
um, um, my mom said, "You don't like cars, do you?" And I'm like, "It's not cars I don't like. It's
Mhm.
driving I don't like." And I
Mhm.
don't like driving because I can't move.
Mhm.
The car moves, but I don't. And that's why I don't like it. Because I'm stuck in this
Mhm.
physical position for an
Yeah.
hour and a half. And
Mhm.
it took me a long time to understand that's that I don't like that. It's not good for me. I'm not happy when I have to sit in one place.
Mhm.
And I can do that for an hour. Like I can sit at a computer for an hour and write stuff and
Mhm.
think and
Mhm.
it be but after an hour I'm like my brain just um my brain just stops, and
Mhm.
it's not productive. Productivity, how much time that a person spends is not
Mhm.
productive. And not, you
Oh.
don't need to be productive all the time,
Mhm.
but it's important for me personally to do things and to be creative. And um, some people are some people are more consumers. They take things from the world, and some people are more creative types. They give things to the
Mhm.
world, and there's a little bit of both in me, but I'm more creative, right? So I need to
Mhm.
either make something, uh, or whether it's audio or video or photographs or something.
Mhm.
I need to do something to keep my mind active, and or even just your conversations with people can be very useful and very creative. And so realizing that your day's only got 24 hours, and that you need to fill it with positive.
Mhm.
experiences as much as possible. There'd be things that, everybody's got their the bills they have to pay and the banking they have to do and
Mhm.
um, emails they have to
Okay.
write that they don't want to write and things. That there's a lot of that.
Mhm.
But you've also got to plan more of what you like
Yeah.
and less of what you don't like, and realize that if there's a big something that you don't like, then Steve Jobs said it best when he said that he said if you wake up too many days in a row not happy, then you have to change it. He just said like if you wake up one day and it's like, oh, it's okay,
Mhm.
that's okay. 2 days, 3 days. If you wake up, if it
Mhm.
goes on longer, it's not good. It's not good, right?
Mhm.
If there's a problem and it's out of your control and you can't solve it, it's not a good thing. It's not good. And so you then need to change and maybe change everything at that point in time. And people don't realize the importance of the micro actions. And you can live a very happy, successful life understanding the little micro
Mhm.
actions of things. Brush your teeth after you eat.
Mhm.
The micro actions of little thing doesn't take long, but it does contribute to your health a lot.
Mhm.
Um, uh, get whatever you do every day, get an hour of sunshine, right?
Mhm.
Or even like 20 minutes. Get 15, 20 minutes of sunshine. Any way that you can, get it on a
Mhm.
daily basis because life's better when you have it than when you don't have it. Yeah. And so those little things, get enough water, get enough
Mhm.
sunshine, get it, you know,
Mhm.
get get yourself some space, right? Get you, don't get if something is stressing you, get away from it. Yeah. And if you are stressing you, then that's
Mhm.
that's more
Mhm.
complicated, but it's it it can be solved. And realizing that everything is a conscious choice. Everyone is where they are because they chose to be there, right? Did everybody made a choice? Everybody is there's there's no there are very few. Okay, I'll say there's no there are very few people doing jobs that they can't change,
Mhm.
right? Almost everybody can change what they're doing. That's a risk, but
Mhm.
that's happiness. What I learned today? I was doing some Christian Bible study today, and
Mhm.
from the Old Testament, and I learned that the word happiness, it's natural. The word happiness and the word happen are the same etymological root, and so that
Mhm.
so that your happiness comes from what happens,
Mhm.
which is from what you do.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
as one of my coaching points to people that I try to help is you can't make anybody else happy. It's impossible. Like my happiness is dependent on my actions, not anybody else's.
Mhm.
My actions and my reactions. You can't make anybody else happy. Yeah, because what if someone's not happy? Maybe whatever you do, they will be not happy.
Mhm.
And if you do something to make them happy, then maybe they will always want you to do that thing to make them happy. and that's not your responsibility. It's not anyone's responsibility to make anybody else happy. And um, I had a girl tell me once. I said to her that I would like an opportunity to make you happy,
Mhm.
and she said, I don't want that. She said, I don't want you to make
Mhm.
me happy.
Mhm. Mhm.
She said, I want to be happy in me.
Mhm.
And of course, at the time, I didn't completely understand that, but now I do. Now I'm a little bit older and a little bit wiser, and it makes
Mhm.
sense to me. It's like, yeah, of course, I get it now. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't want to be dependent on other people for your
Mhm.
happiness because what happens when they're not there, right? What happens when they're not there?
Mhm.
And it's I think people have to be happy within themselves with who they are first before anything else can
Mhm.
can be successful in a person's life. And you see it with it, it's called codependent relationships, right? It's got a name in
Mhm.
psychology. It's
Okay.
codependent relationship where you
Mhm.
need the other person. Without the other person, you can't survive, and that's not the right kind of responsibility to have in a relationship because then you're leaning on them and maybe they're leaning on you, and if one of you moves then the other one will fall over, and it's probably better if you're both standing
Mhm.
as pillars of the building by
Mhm.
yourselves, and then you can hold up some kind of bigger structure around about yourselves. But if you're leaning on somebody else, it's stress and pressure on the relationship, and um, that's what makes relationships hard a lot of the time because you want to be with somebody else because you're happy when you're with them,
Mhm.
but you don't want to be not happy when they're not there,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
As well at the same time, yeah.
Mhm.
You want to be happy by yourself and with them, not happy with them and unhappy when you're by
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and but at the same time, you want things to be better, and hopefully they will be naturally better. And then it's dangerous when someone says, "Oh, I miss you." It's like, "Oh, that's nice," and yet,
Mhm.
and yet you don't you don't want them to miss you so much that they go crazy, right? You don't want that either, right? You want them to have their own things that they do in their own world that makes them happy, and things that you can share and contribute
Yeah.
to.
Mhm.
And I think that in the long term, those kind of relationships are the happiest kind of relationships. Although there's no rules, right? There's no
Mhm.
perfect set of rules about
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
what's going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
But uh, you have to live with this expectation as well that when you have a relationship with someone, that one of you is going to die first, right? And it's a horrible
Mhm.
long-term thought, but you don't think about this when you're 25 to 30, but as you get
Mhm.
60 to
Mhm.
70
Mhm.
to 80, it becomes very, very clear that one of you is going to die. And you don't, your heart might be broken, but you don't want to lose your life because you also have responsibilities to your family as well, right? So, and then hopefully you have a family and a network and friends and grandchildren and things like that.
Mhm.
So, it doesn't. It's 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 a massive loss when one of the grandparents dies. When both of the grandparents die, well, the generation is gone, right? It's completely
Mhm.
irreplaceable at that point in time, and so it's it's I think necessary to give a as good and as strong an example for the grandchildren as possible that
Mhm.
um, uh, that for there to be a good relationship, you not only need to enjoy time together, but you need to enjoy time apart as well, and do your own thing, which is hard
Mhm.
for
That's
people,
good.
because
Mhm.
because there's this I don't know where the idea of love comes from. I thought about this in my own life. I'm like,
Mhm.
what are my concepts of love, and where do they come from, and why do I think what I think, and did I watch too many romantic Hollywood films that gave me maybe the
Mhm.
wrong picture about what a relationship should be like and could be like.
Mhm.
And I've just finished reading through the book of Ruth in the Old Testament. It's one of the Old Testament books. It's the
Mhm.
I think it's the eighth book in the Old Testament. Let me just double
Mhm.
check that. I'm gonna check the book of Book of Ruth. Yes, I got it right. It's the eighth book 8 in the Bible.
Mhm.
Right. So it's book
Mhm.
8 in the Old Testament. And I just read through it twice
Mhm.
because I went through it once, and this is not the first. This is like I read through it 3 times before, but this time I
Mhm.
read it and finished it, and then I was like, oh, I get it.
Mhm.
I went back and read it again, and I still like there's still like the last part of it is
Mhm.
so complicated for me that I'm like, I think I understand it, but I don't really understand it because it was 2,500 years ago and the
Mhm.
systems were different. But because at the end of the book, there's a very complicated problem with Ruth marrying. Oh my God, who does she marry? Boaz, I think it is, and um, because they're from different tribes, right? They're from different family groups.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, the Mosaic scripture and writings and the law says they can't marry, right?
Mhm.
Because they will, because it's
Mhm.
complicated and
Careful.
but they had very good rules for a good reason at the time,
Mhm. Really. Mhm.
and um, a lot of support for women and women's rights as well. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting, right? Because if um
Mhm.
if a woman married a man and the man died, then the man's brothers or family had to take care of the woman. It was
Mhm.
their responsibility to take care of the woman.
That's what it is. Mhm.
Yeah. And the woman, not the man, the woman could choose a new husband from the
Of the
family.
family. Mhm.
Yeah, not the
Mhm.
man choosing, the woman got to choose a new husband from the family.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
really, really, it's a
Mhm.
bit strange, but it's
Mhm.
understandable for the time
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
that period of history and for the way
Mhm.
that they lived their lives then. And
But now it is not often.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's no support now, right?
Mhm.
Whereas
Mhm.
This is what I think is so important. Before, marriage was a family decision. It wasn't an individual
Mhm.
decision. It was a family decision,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that was really important
Mhm.
because of the knowledge network that exists within families of maybe your brother or sister knows you better than you, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And maybe your mother or father knows you better than you. And they can see things that you can't see. And that's helpful, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's very helpful. Which is
Mhm.
which is why I think that I honestly believe that parents and family should be involved in the decision about who your partner is. I think they
Mhm.
should be involved. Yeah. And it's obviously, of course, it's people's individual decision, but I support the idea that people should not get married without the support of their parents. If the parents say no, then
Mhm.
I think that that's there are sometimes good
Mhm.
reasons for that, and that
Mhm. Mhm.
that young is not always smart. So yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah. Anyway, I was reading the Book of Ruth, and I didn't realize that it was a love story. Only on the fourth time that I read through it did I realize it's a love story. Oh, I'm like, oh, I get
Mhm.
it now. It's a love
Love story.
story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In the house.
But love is never mentioned. They don't talk about love, but it's a love story. It's a story about a woman who loses her husband, who goes to work somewhere to make money, and she leaves her family, and she meets another uh, she meets another man, and it's about their developing relationship with each other.
Mhm. Mhm.
And and we it's definitely one of the oldest love stories that exists.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was reading it and I was thinking, oh, this will make a great film. I was thinking if this would make a great film, that this this epic historical sort of love story, and the complicated nature of how does this person from this tribe, it's the Romeo and Juliet story, but with
Roman.
older
Mhm.
characters, right?
Mhm.
The characters are
Mhm.
older. I'm not sure exactly how
Mhm.
old, but I'm guessing 30 to 40 rather than, um, 20, 18 to
Mhm.
20. And uh, but it's the Romeo and Juliet story. The two different tribes, two different families. How do
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
how do they get together? And there's the the negative side of it, because there's always has to be something you fight against. It's not people. It's it's the system of the time,
Mhm.
and how do they find a solution to solve the problem of the system of the time so that they can live together and be happy. And this is extremely important because Ruth is the grandmother of David, King David. And King David is the genealogical line of Jesus, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
without Ruth and Boaz getting together, there would be no King David and there would be no Jesus.
Mhm.
Uh, and it also shows how these people were not perfect, um,
Mhm.
as there were always not perfect people in the lineage.
Mhm.
Very often, if you look at the Old Testament, very often God uses not strong people to do his work.
Mhm.
He uses not strong people because the strong are confident in what they do,
Mhm.
and their confidence leads them down the wrong path. it's
Mhm.
not bad to be confident, but it's interesting to see how um, people who have weaker personalities and are very maybe have problems because they've got broken families, or they're maybe even egotistical to a certain extent, like Samson uh, in the Book of Judges. Um, so it's 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 quite fascinating to look at that and realize that it's basically a love story, and there's a lot that people can learn from the nature of the relationship and the support of the people that they have around about them for the things that that they are doing. And um, I never noticed it before. You know,
Mhm.
it, it it's always dark until someone turns on the light, right?
Right.
And then when someone
Mhm.
turns on the light, you begin to see things
Mhm.
that you didn't see before. Very often in life, we need somebody else to say,
Mhm.
look at that. What do you see? And oh, I didn't see that before. And then
Mhm.
and then once you learn to see it, you can't unsee it, right? You can't go back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Especially, if you're a doctor or a psychologist and you work with people and you see the
Mhm.
problem, you're like, oh, there we go. There's another one of those problems again. Yeah. you,
Mhm.
you learn to see it, and then you see it all
Mhm.
the time after you learn to see it once. And so yeah, I spent some time with that story in that book today, and um, I was amazed at how I didn't see it the first time around. But I, there's it seems to me that there's always more. You know, there's always
Mhm.
there's always something under every.
Mhm.
There's layers
Mhm.
to everything, right?
Yes.
And there's
Mhm.
always something under things going on. And so that was that was a bit of a revelation for me, and
Mhm.
it made me think a lot about my own personal relationships and um, the need, how difficult it is for people to have the balance that's necessary in a relationship where it's not leaning too much on one
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
or or too much on somebody else, and and also realizing that you can't do everything yourself, right? As well, it's just impossible. That's what
Yes.
it's obviously what I said to my mother, right? I did like, you,
Mhm.
you have these problems. Don't try to do everything yourself. You know, realize what you can do and what you should do, and the tasks that you gave to dad that were necessary. I said, you give those to me now. Okay, those are my
Mhm.
jobs,
Mhm.
right?